Hi, my name is Megan Merrill, and my final project is Curriculum in the Common Core. My project was originally intended to be an interview project, but my interviewee and I were unable to find a common time to meet, so it became a research project. I have been teaching in an urban school district for the past 13 years. I've taught first grade, kindergarten, and in the past year I was an intervention teacher for kindergarten and third grade. Next year I will be working as an ESL teacher. I'm not sure what grade level I'll be attached to yet. My paper was investigating just the connections between the Common Core and what effect that will have on an educator's philosophy of education. I found arguments both for and against the implementation of the standards, wondering how teachers can maintain some level of autonomy while still meeting their state's expectations. What I found was that teachers are likely to find that there's a fair amount of choice allowed in the Common Core state standards, but that the choice will be in how standards are presented rather than in the content that will be covered. They might also find that their personal philosophy of education is not challenged or limited as much as some teachers might fear. So what is the Common Core? In 2010, Kansas adopted the Common Core state standards. The Common Core state standards, also known as CCSS, are academic benchmarks for reading and math that lay out what students should know and be able to do at each grade level as well as after high school. Currently, 45 states and the District of Columbia have adopted the standards, while 5 other states created their own version. For those who have adopted the standards already, they will be required to be fully implemented by the 2014-2015 school year, when the new assessments aligned with the Common Core are published. In the article, Philosophy as a Basis for Curriculum Decisions by Alan C. Ornstein, it stated that our philosophy of education influences and to a large extent determines our education decisions, choices, and alternatives. So that brings us to the problem. In a blog post on how the Common Core will affect indigenous peoples in Alaska, the author said this: "The question we should be concerned with then is how much autonomy teachers and schools will retain in working to meet the Common Core state standards, and how teachers and schools will be evaluated to determine whether expectations are being met." Although the author was asking the question in regards to a particular set of circumstances, I think that the question has relevance for all educators. So the argument against the Common Core standards. This quote is from Alan Singer, and he's a social studies educator at Hofstra University. He said, "I have been very critical of the National Common Core standards developed by the National Governors Association and the Council of Chief State School Officers with money from the Pearson and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations for a number of reasons. I believe that they are partly a ploy by major publishers and media companies to sell new materials to school that is actually the same old stuff marketed with different labels. I think their stress on skill acquisition in reading and math at the expense of content understanding in other subject areas has the potential to eviscerate instruction in history, social studies, science, health, literature, the arts, and language. I think pairing the Common Core standards with high-stakes testing for students and new forms of teacher evaluation has the potential to undermine effective instruction and learning." There were also arguments for. Lucy Calkins, along with 2 other authors, wrote a book, Pathways to the Common Core, and they had many reasons to support the Common Core standards based on just doing what's best for your students and knowing that the Common Core is coming whether we agree to it or not. They said that your attitude towards accepting the Common Core state standards is chosen by you and will have an effect on your students. So they said one of my favorite reasons that they had cited for just choosing to support the Common Core and look for the good in it is that it's important to note and celebrate that the emphasis in the Common Core is on students learning to read and write complex texts independently at high levels of proficiency and at a rapid enough rate to be effective. That is, it doesn't do a student a lot of good if she can handle college-level work only with her classmates and teachers in tow. The Common Core state standards focus on proficiency and complexity, yes, but also on independence. The Common Core want to be sure kids graduate from high school able to do quick, on-the-run research when needed, to express their thinking verbally and in writing, and to summarize, synthesize, analyze, and design without needing teachers to insert the key questions along the way or to walk students through a step-by-step approach. So the conclusions I was able to draw from those two arguments was that the adoption of the Common Core does require a substantial shift in what will be taught. The new standards narrow the broad scope of current Kansas standards and push for more depth in processing and analysis by students. Writing integration will be a huge skill necessary for successful transition and an area that has been neglected recently in many school curricula. Teachers will need to focus on project-based approaches, and that may be the avenue to allow teachers some autonomy in instructional decision making.